is Doha Heat. Hi everyone, I'm Martina from Argentina. This is Doha Heat, and I have the pleasure to have today with me Sana Aftab from Sidra. So, hi, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Okay. So, Sana, we met last week, and I invited her to our podcast because I found really interested all the things that you are doing at Sidra. So I thought it was a good idea to let the audience know what's going on during these days. Just do you want to talk a little bit about your project and your job there?
Yeah. I'm working with one of the women's mental health teams, and we definitely run some mental health care services that we provide to perinatal women. So, perinatal essentially means the time from when the woman is pregnant to 1 year post delivery. So, that's called as perinatal. It can include some time if she's trying to conceive, like if someone is already suffering from some anxiety or some even clinical issues like bipolar disorder, something like that, and they're trying to get pregnant. So we might provide some services to them also, so they're mentally prepared for the journey of being pregnant and of course raising a baby, because it's quite a demanding journey for any woman. I mean, pregnancy is very tasking for the body of a woman as well as the psychological makeup of a woman. And we also feel that because pregnancy is a time when a woman is more keen on receiving medical care, and everybody in the household also is very keen on making sure that a woman gets proper medical care in case any any mental issues are highlighted in this case. In this period, it's always good to seek treatment because everybody is so keen on making sure the woman is giving the proper care because of the fact that she's pregnant. So we feel that perinatal duration of a woman's life is a time period when she's definitely the most proactive in seeking health care or treatment for any kind of ailment that she has. So that's why we're focusing very much on this 1 year or 1 year and 9 months.
But apart from that, no, of course you mentioned this special disease. I just feel that it's something common, no? Maybe you don't have to have this special thing. It's just a special moment that you will, of course, feel different.
Absolutely.
And why don't you have the opportunity to go ahead with a kind of treatment, or maybe someone who can listen to you, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So what I've learned from my experience and also from speaking with friends of my age group or even my cousins or people I work with is it's still not talked about very freely in our society for many different reasons. I mean, for one of the main reasons is probably stigma. One of the other reasons is probably there's so limited research, not only in Western countries but even in developing countries. Like if I go back to India and I see my friends back there, when they raise the issue of struggling with emotions or feeling overwhelmed with their OBGYNs, a lot of them basically just dismissed it. They're like, yeah, that's natural, so what are you going to do? I'll give you one typical example. A friend of mine, I think she was suffering from severe postpartum depression. Like, so it was so severe that she couldn't even bond with the baby. And that had happened even during her pregnancy. So during her pregnancy, she was very, very anxious and she couldn't sleep. She was suffering from insomnia. She was getting a lot of negative thoughts. And when she said the same thing to her OBGYN, she was basically dismissed. So she was like, of course you'll feel that way, because what do you mean, you're going through pregnancy, you're you're making a person inside you, for sure you'll feel like that. So she wasn't given any sleep treatments, no exercise, no medication. So what she told me is that for those entire 9 months, I was just watching horror movies because I couldn't sleep. And then that was affecting how her mind was processing things when she was awake. So she was basically probably imagining things when she was working. And, a lot of these things. And which is quite surprising for me, because if you already are in the care of a medical practitioner, how is it that they take it so lightly? Like, why don't you see that this person is going through something that's affecting her body so much, for sure it's going to affect her mind as well, because a woman's mind is also changing because of the chemical changes in her body while being pregnant. So our brains are wired differently from how a man's brain is wired. And in pregnancy, it I think it changes even more because you get those maternal instincts, you get those survival skills, and everything is just for you and your baby's, survival or betterment or future. So I think the moment you get pregnant and the moment you deliver the baby, even while you're in labor, there's so many chemical changes happening in the body that it definitely affects the makeup of your mind and how you perceive emotions, or how you perceive threats, or how you perceive something that's, any kind of situation that's coming on to you. So it's quite surprising, and I think unfortunate also, that a lot of people still don't realize that there's nothing wrong with having any kind of anxiety or depression during this perinatal period, because it's biology at the end of the day. So I think that's what's probably the main issue here, that there's such a lack of awareness, and something that's not even talked about, or something that people feel, oh, it might get used against me if I share my struggles with anxiety or postpartum depression, that people might think I'm going crazy, I'm not able to take care of my child. That's not the case. I mean, in most of the cases, it's very, very treatable. It's definitely manageable. You don't even need to take medications unless it's extreme. So I think from my experience, that's what I feel.
No, of course, and those things are like kind of cliche, that you're supposed to feel that, you're supposed to think like that, and that. But then at the end, if this comes like daily and in extreme way, so you need to just see someone. It's there was a psychology that it's Winnicott. It's a very famous one, and he said something. It's really true. That during the pregnancy, the mother has this kind of all her attention. It's focused on her baby.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's it. And okay, come on, you're still a person. So how can we deal with that? Your attention it's in other person, but you're still alive.
Yeah.
So we need to do something for that.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Like, despite it's a cliche thing or thought for the society, I think it's a good. We need to just think about how to deal with that. And also your family needs to be aware of what the woman is dealing with.
I think the most important thing is a mindset change, or not only a change, but the understanding that this is a very natural and common thing. It happens so frequently that I think probably I won't be surprised if the number is as high as 80%. And all of us, when we are pregnant or when we have delivered, we struggle because. So before the delivery, of course, you're going through the actual process of being pregnant and all the physiological and mental challenges that come with it. And after you deliver, of course, it's a child who's so dependent on you. They can't even hold up their head. Most of the times, they don't even know how to breathe. Like, they're still struggling with learning how to breathe because they've been living in amniotic fluid for the past 9 months. So they have to get out of the breathing in fluid and breathe in air. I mean, you had to feed them. Most of the times, they don't even know how to feed themselves. Like, if you're breastfeeding them, you have to literally teach a baby to breastfeed and basically survive. And there have been so many cases where women have struggled with breastfeeding because they don't know the correct way of holding a baby, right? And it can actually, in some cases, it can get very dangerous. Like, you can suffocate your baby also if you don't do it the correct way. But that's a different story. So, like when I had my first child, I was amazed at how helpless a human newborn is. Like, if you compare it with other animals, they are literally able to walk on their feet and run off, and the human baby, till like 5-6 months, they can't even hold up their head on their own. So you literally have to be so careful and make sure that you're able to keep this person alive. And then sometimes they won't sleep, or they have like diarrhea or whatever. So it's a very stressful time for a woman. especially if you're new mother. So I've come across so many women who feel that I don't know if I'm doing a good job of being a mother. Am I a good mother? Am I a bad mother? I'm like, well, you're just learning, Nobody teaches you to be a parent. It's something you just learn every day. Like my first one is, mashallah, now 2 years old, and I feel I'm still learning to be
You're
a
always learning.
companion and a parent to the person. So I think we put so much pressure on ourselves as women, and I think it's also got to do with how our society is sort of made a consumer centric industry around motherhood. Like if you go to a baby shop, there are tons of things that you should have. You should have this rattle, and you should have this crib, and you should have these many accessories. And if you look at it, you don't really need all those things. But I feel as new parents and definitely as new mothers, women are bombarded with so much information, and most of the times it's not even information they need. It's information that people have just collected from everybody else, and there's not a lot of scientific information that's imparted even now. So when I look at my sister when she was pregnant and the kind of things she had in mind, and then when I compare myself, I was fortunate to be working in actually an OBGYN clinic in my first pregnancy. So I was always in touch with physicians and midwives and nurses who have basically, treated women. So I learned so much about what kind of diet I should have, what kind of exercise I should have, what I should expect from the whole journey of being pregnant, what should I should expect when I am in labor, how I should cope with the pain of being in labor. And if I compare that with someone who I know, or even if I compare that with myself and how little I knew about the entire journey of being a pregnant woman, even though my sister already had a baby, my mom had a baby after me. So between my brother and I, we have 8 years. So I literally raised him as a kid. So I used to think, oh, I've seen my mother being pregnant. I've seen my sister being pregnant. So I know everything about being pregnant. But I didn't know, and there's so many things about the delivery aspect. Also, the fact that having a normal birth is so much better than having an elective C-section. A lot of the people don't even know about that. In fact, in a lot of developing countries, women are not even given a choice of going through a natural birth. They say that, oh, we don't have the resources, or we don't know how long you'll be in labor. How can we keep the clinic or the unit occupied for 14 hours if you're in labor for 14 hours? And that is so wrong, because you, at the end of the day, you're denying a critical human right to the person of receiving the most accurate healthcare service that they should have. Because if a woman doesn't need a C-section, there's no need to cut her open, because it's so bad to the woman's anatomy and her ability to conceive in future and her ability to deliver another baby in future naturally, because you basically cut 5-6 layers of a woman's uterus, and it takes so much time to heal, so much time to recover. It's so painful postpartum.
At the end, it's still your body.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, it's a surgical procedure that you never needed to begin with, but just because the healthcare provider wants to deliver 10 babies instead of one in a span
It's
of
also a
12
financial
hours.
thing.
Absolutely, it's financial as well. And the fact that they're not even informed of the risks or the benefits of having a natural birth versus a C-section. That's something I find so bizarre. That's something that I still can't wrap my head around it. Like all of my friends back home, they had to go through a C-section because they were not given a choice. I think just one or two were able to go through a normal birth because of the fact that either they were doctors themselves or their husbands were doctors, and they were able to create those conditions in the maternity clinic that no, we want to go through a normal birth. So that's something. Also, I feel there's still a lot of limited research or limited understanding of the different medical practices that affect women and that affect their healthcare long term also. So I think that's something we really need to probably raise more awareness on by having these kinds of podcasts, by having discussions. Like we in Sidra, we take a lot of time to educate our patients about what kind of conditions they can go through or what kind of different treatments they can access. The project that I'm currently working on, we are in the process of creating a portal where patients can have understanding of what kind of community care services they can access in Qatar. So there are lots of these non-governmental organizations that provide just consulting, coaching and exercise and services, so where you can just speak to a person without even telling them who you are or giving any information about your credentials. So it's absolutely confidential. And if the counselor there feels that this person probably needs more of a serious clinical care, then they can refer them to the different healthcare providers. So that's something I find very, very interesting, and I'm happy that there are people who are actually doing that. There are lots of these mom care groups that you can also find on Facebook, where women get together for a cup of tea, or maybe there are some I think there's some knitting classes or knitting groups that QNL, the Qatar National Library, organize. I think it's probably every Thursday, or maybe once, probably the third Thursday or fourth Thursday. I'm not absolutely sure when it is. Where women get together, they knit, they share a few moments with their friends, and basically talk about what their challenges are. I think that's so important, because when you see someone struggling with what you're also struggling with, you understand that it's normal. It's not something that's only happening with me, but it's something that a lot of people around me are struggling with, and that's very empowering to a person. Yeah.
I think I found your program very, very interesting because you mentioned these groups, but it's a plus to have doctors
Yeah.
and specialists, because sometimes when we're just talking to another woman, I'm not saying it's something wrong. Of course, it's not, but every experience is different, and every woman is different. So sometimes it's good to have like a medical opinion, of course. So that's why your program it's really good, because you will combine
Absolutely.
testimonials plus some real information. The thing, like what I understand from my point of view, we are not saying here that you need to let's say go ahead with a natural birth. No. You just need to have the whole information to decide what to do.
Absolutely.
That's the thing, and that's the thing that we are missing right now, and we are trying to increase with these
Absolutely.
programs
Yeah.
and with all your work and at Sidra and the different places, right?
Yeah. That's absolutely true, and I also feel it depends on the kind of training that a particular physician or a particular mental health professional has been given. A lot of the times, they come from, like, as you know, in Qatar we are more expats here than nationals, of course. So everybody comes from every other country, and we all bring our own assumptions. We bring our own bit of our own culture, or bit of our own way of interacting with people, because how Asians interact differently, Europeans interact differently, North Americans interact differently, Arabic people interact differently. So I think that also comes into picture, because if you're interacting with a physician who doesn't feel the need to engage with you, that's a time wasted for you. Then why would you spend half an hour seeing that person if the person is not even talking to you? All they're saying is, yeah, your tests are fine, everything is okay. That's okay, you
Yeah.
can go. So I think that definitely is something that's very different in Sidra is a very patient-centric organization, and everything we do, we make sure the patient revolves around the entire experience. So right from the time when they come in to the time when they leave, we make sure that they are treated as a person, they are engaged at every level, and they feel the value of coming and speaking to a specialist. So not just in mental health clinic. If you go to any other clinic, I'm sure you'll feel the same experience, that patients feel engaged here quite a lot, because that's how the vision of the hospital has been from the founder.
And you need to trust the professional you're attending, because
Absolutely.
I mean, you are in a very special moment, and you need someone to take care of you.
For sure, and it's a very sensitive part of a person's life when you're pregnant or when you're given a birth, because of, like I said, there's so many physiological and mental changes that you have gone through, that even you are struggling to understand. Like I was struggling to understand my moods and my emotions, because one minute I was happy, another minute I was cranky, another minute I was screaming at the top of my lungs, and I felt that people don't understand that it's okay to have all those conflicting emotions at the same time because you're going through so much. So I think if people just talk to each other and understand, give women or mothers that relaxation that, oh, she's going through a lot, she's learning to have these different experiences that she's never had before. And it's not just the fact that if you're a new mother, even if you're a mother who has three children, every child is different because it's a different person. Their DNA is entirely different from another person. Every pregnancy is different, every child is different, and every woman is different. So my first pregnancy is totally different from my second pregnancy, like my experience as a person. Also, the fact that a lot of the times women are very young when they are becoming mothers. Sometimes women are very old and they have probably forgotten how their experience was because that's how your mind is, you're wired. So the mind is wired to forget all the traumatic experiences that you've had. So maybe if your first pregnancy was too traumatic, your brain has just washed off those memories because it doesn't want to go to the post-traumatic stress. So I feel the more we talk about it, the more we understand, the more we become comfortable with the notion that it's okay to have all these struggles and it's okay to talk to people without being judged, without being discriminated against, or without that information being used against you in future. I think that's what's very important.
Yeah, of course, because I think that society thinks that you need to go ahead with your normal life,
Yeah.
and it is not possible because before that you were just one person,
Yeah.
and after that you're two. So
Yeah.
that's from the very beginning. It's different.
Absolutely.
So we really need to understand that. That there are. I just seen a few videos where it's a kind of test for the daddies, and you just put them some tummies, and they can just pretending to feel the kicks, or how painful it is to deliver a baby. Of course, it is not the same as a woman feelings and that kind of things, but at least try to play like a different character. And okay, oh, wow, how painful it's this. I need to support my wife because I can't. I mean, they were shouting at the video and the
Absolutely.
experience.
Yeah.
So that's something I found it very interesting.
I think it was BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed had a video
Yeah.
that is similar to people like all those BuzzFeed guys, and they had the belly. Yes, I think sometimes I say that to my husband, even though alhamdulillah, my husband is very, very hands-on. He's been very helpful to me even during the pregnancy and with raising of the baby. But sometimes I still tell him that when you say we are pregnant, that's not actually the case. You will never understand what being pregnant means. So you should probably wear
Please don't
a
speak in
sack
plural.
and try to understand just the physical weight of carrying. Forget about the emotional or the actual experience of going through the pregnancy. But you're very right, and that's something we also raise with our patients, is that make sure that you include your family members, your friends, as well as your husband in all your discussions. And even with the OBGYN appointments, men are welcome. Like in Sidra, you can have your husband with you when you're having a scan or when you're having the appointment with your OBGYN. So that's something also I feel is very important, that men should definitely be part of this discussion. Dads definitely should be part of this understanding of what the woman is going through and how they can support. Basically, it's not just the support of a healthcare provider. The first point of support for sure would always be your husband and your family. So yeah, that's a very good point that you raised. And I feel that the more people talk about it, the more even men understand. So if someone is come from a mindset that no, this is not something I should really care about, my job as a father ends with the providing a financial assistance or a good house over my wife and my child said, I think the more they talk about it, the more they understand how everybody else is helping and how that's going to raise a better child and also help the healthcare of a mother. I think people are very open to changing their mindsets. That's what I felt, that when you talk to a person, they will listen. And for sure, people are not so rigid or so stuck in their ways that they will not understand that how our fathers or how our grandfathers were as parents or even spouses has to be the same for them also. I'm sure that everybody's willing to change. Maybe for some it takes more time, but I definitely see that when they see the value and when they recognize the person as a human being struggling and they need help, I think they do come to the realization that maybe I should try to do things differently.
Yeah, of course, at the end, everyone comes from the same place.
Yeah.
So we need to understand it's something very natural. Okay.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much for coming. It was a pleasure to having you in our podcast. And I think that it's also very valuable to have this kind of talks, and we can just keep talking
Yeah,
because it's
definitely.
like amazing. Yeah, thank you
I
very
have
much
tons
for your
of
time.
things to share.
Thank you very much, Sana.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, guys. We'll see each other next week. Bye-bye. This is Doha.